So welcome to our International Faculty and Scholar podcast series at Arizona State University, where we highlight the stories of visiting scholars, researchers, and faculty from around the world. I'm your host, Giuliano Roberts, International Scholar Program Coordinator here at ASU. And today we are joined by Dr. Aditya Sarnaik, an Associate Research Professional from the School of Sustainable Engineering and Built Environment at ASU. Dr. Sarnaik holds a PhD from the Institute of Chemical Technology in Mumbai, India, and currently works at the Arizona Center for Algae Technology and Innovation, known as AzCATI, where he develops innovative bio-based solutions for real-world sustainability challenges. Today, we'll explore Dr. Sarnaik's groundbreaking work at ASU developing bio-based sunscreen for marine cyanobacteria. We also hear how his research journey from India to Arizona is helping shape the future of eco-friendly solutions. So welcome, Dr. Aditya. Welcome to our podcast.
Thank you.
We can start off with the first question. So what first drew you to the biotechnology and metabolic engineering?
Drew me to biotechnology. I would say I did not choose it. I was the chosen one. So back when I started specifically in biotechnology back in India, it was a blooming field in India. Now, as everyone was going, even I went for it. But since my childhood, I was very much intrigued by characters like X-Men, Fantastic Four, Spider-Man, and all those things. And that drive continued. And I would say I didn't know how mutations work, but I wanted to work with mutations. And as I said, that drive continued, and passion over a period of time got converted to profession. Amazing. And that is how I am doing biotechnology and metabolic engineering at this particular moment.
Fascinating. So how did your journey lead you to ASU? Why ASU? And how did it lead you to AzCATI?
Oh, okay. So I'll take some time on this question. Mm-hmm. So it is, I wouldn't say it is interesting, but it is more like a film plot. When I was searching for my PhD admissions, I was actually teaching at University of Mumbai. And I failed two important interviews for my PhD. In one interview, they asked me a question on photosynthesis. In another interview, they asked me a question on metabolic engineering, and I could not answer those questions. And ultimately, in India, there is a test called as National Eligibility Test.
Okay.
And more than million people actually appear for it. And the result
is a million.
Yeah.
Wow.
Throughout India. And the result is hardly 1 to 2%, if I'm not wrong. And I was 33rd in India at that time. So through that, the government gives you money to opt for PhD. So it is a JRF, okay. Junior Research Fellowship.
Yes.
With this JRF, I ended up in PhD, whose topic was metabolic engineering of photosynthetic organisms.
It was just meant to be.
It was meant to be. I mean, the PhD test I failed. I actually opted for that. Now, During my PhD, I got an opportunity to work at Washington University in St. Louis as an exchange scholar with Professor Yinji Tang. And I would like to mention that my postdoc mentor at Arizona State University was a former student of Yinji.
Oh, wow.
So that is how I came to know about Dr. Arul Varman.
Wow.
So when I finished my PhD in 2018, I contacted Arul if he can help me with finding the postdoc positions, and apparently he has one. So I opted for that position, and I got into ASU in 2019. But again, due to visa constraints and all, I had to head back to India. So this is my first answer, that how did I came to ASU? Now, when I was working with Arul, I was working in collaboration with Sandia National Labs at Livermore. So it is one of the national labs with Dr. Ryan Davis. Mm-hmm. And when I was back in India in 2021, after 2 years in India, I contacted Ryan that whether he knows of any positions. And he said, I have one position with one of my collaborators at one of the companies. And will you be interested in coming to ASCATI? So I said yes. And that is how I came back to ASU. Like my, it's homecoming kind of stuff.
Wow.
Yeah. So that is how I came to ASCATI. So I was already
Amazing.
working with cyanobacteria and algae for like since 2013.
Uh-huh.
Now it's like 12 years, I would say. So AzCATI was like a treat for me.
Amazing. So what excites you most about this project that you're working on, like developing algae-based sunscreen
In one word, I would say potential.
potential?
So main thing is since past more than 2 decades or rather 3 decades, people are working on algae and cyanobacteria, I would say. I wouldn't say algae.
Uh-huh.
People have been working on cyanobacteria, and once we researchers get an organism, we try to engineer it metabolically and produce all sorts of products out of it.
Wow.
But there is always a limit to something.
Yes. Yes.
Over a period of time, people realize that these organisms won't work for certain kinds of products. And then that, I would say, madness reduced. But consider that cyanobacteria are the ones who are responsible for the great oxidation event, which happened 2.8 billion years ago. They are the ones who changed the Earth's atmosphere. They are the ones because of whom you are existed. We are existing on this Earth
Because of
because of cyanobacteria.
cyanobacteria.
They changed our atmosphere with oxygen, and now the organisms which can use that oxygen can thrive on this Earth. So they are responsible for our existence today. So they must have some potential, right?
Just a little bit, right?
Yeah. So that is how. So that is the main potential we saw in that organism. We saw that these organisms have sustained over the years. So they must be producing something which is useful against the light, as you said, sunscreens.
Yeah.
So we started exploring those. So that's why I said one word, that potential. So this project has potential to get to the market, and we are in the process of that.
Absolutely impressive. Wow. So what is the connection between, because you mentioned a lot biotechnology, but also like sustainability. So is there like any kind of connection between biotechnology, sustainability, but also like your personal values?
Yeah, biotechnology sustainability connection, you can see it everywhere online.
Yeah.
But if you consider it from my personal value, so I come from a middle class family.
Okay.
So we have one motto: earn to save for future and then use whatever is left over. Don't earn to use and then save the leftover. So first earn, save, and use. And I think
Yes.
this is a sustainability principle we should implement in our research as well. That how many things you use,
Absolutely.
and that is why
Yes.
I always feel that the things I learned since my childhood from my parents, from my family, from my friends, and all the ambience around, that ultimately percolated into my research. Say how to work. Do not use things just because they're available. Use wisely. That is the first thing. Second thing, I would say that whenever we engineer any organism or whenever we engineer any process for that matter, it has to be simple yet effective. So that again relates to what my life is all about. Because if it is simple and effective, it will sustain over the years. If it is very complicated, then the stability we tend to lose on the stability of something.
It's more like a long-term investment, right?
Yes. So as I said, earn, save, and use. That is the first principle. That is one first connecting motto, and second is keep things simple yet effective.
I'll save that. So let's go back to life as a postdoc scholar. What was it like transitioning from India to the US, especially when it comes to like the research environments? What was that transition? How did it look like?
So this question, this question is a very debatable question. I would say it is a question of global debate.
Okay.
But every lab differs in its infrastructure and all these things. When you talk about research environment,
Yeah.
one very important factor that influences research is the requirement of the country
Okay.
and the population. As I told you, the population of Mumbai, the
Yes.
place from
Yes.
where I come from, is more than entire Arizona's population, and that is
Mind-blowing.
why, and that is why the research in India, I would say, research which has a selling value in India
Mhm.
is more market oriented.
Okay.
Science oriented research in Arizona, the research is more science oriented,
Okay.
and followed by that, we look after the market.
Okay.
So these are the
Interesting.
two main perspectives.
Interesting. And you've been living in Arizona for like a few years, I would say already. So like, what aspects of life in Arizona surprised you or inspired you the most?
Oh, okay. I would say specifically about Arizona is the sense of community and belongingness.
Okay.
I do not feel like outsider here. I would say ISSC, ASU is one of the important contributors to that. So if I have any question, I directly contact ISSC. I like at home, if you have any question, you go and talk to your elders at home. Similarly, I directly contact any kind of question and they direct me anywhere. So that is the first thing about ASU, I would say. But overall, the place where I live, the place where I work, the sense of community, the sense of belongingness, that is something very specifically that I sensed.
Okay.
And so those are that is something more important from my.
So what has helped you feel most at home here?
Food.
Food.
I would say the produce and dairy sections of Walmart, Winco, all those things. So you get everything, and it is not there in all the states. It is the location of Arizona that is very important.
Okay, so you see like more diversity here, especially with the products.
Yes,
say,
the
like
kind of food that
kind
we
of food.
get and the spices that we get, because we are more close to Mexico. The culture is very fluid, so we have too many spices. We even use those kind of stuff in India.
Are they like similar to the one I was gonna say?
Similar. Yeah,
similar.
And second thing is the standard of living. Arizona has a good standard of living at a reasonable cost, which again you do not find in many US states.
Which is like a big factor, right?
Which is a really big factor. And that is why when you talk to any person around or when you interact with people around, you do not have any prejudice or any kind of preconceived notion just because of where you live.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is crucial.
Which is very important, very, very important.
In your life, yes. So tell us a little bit more about AzCATI and your research, your project, and the kind of interdisciplinary work that's happening there. So how does your work in algal biotechnology contribute to global sustainability worldwide?
Okay. So first, let me answer about AzCATI.
Yes.
So AzCATI, on a very crude basis, I would say there are 4 tiers in AzCATI. One is where the students, followed by that there is a managing staff, then there is administrative staff, and then there are directors and faculty members. Despite these tiers, which are there on paper, everyone works at ground level.
Yeah.
I mean, our director, Dr. John McGowan, he knows what the students are doing. And he himself is physically involved with all sorts of work. So this is something very motivating and inspiring, I would say. And in India, these things are relatively rare. I wouldn't say they are not there because people are involved with multiple other stuff.
Yes.
But in here, he personally look into all these things. And when you talk about the interdisciplinary work, AzCATI works with algal cultivation, pest control. It works with the green manufacturing, or you may say the field of biomanufacturing, we work with bioprocess. I'll specifically talk about my stuff is I work with scale up. I go from 100 milliliters to 1,000 liters.
Wow.
And then downstream of that, like separating out the stuff from that, purification there. Then there is another group which works on algal engineering, which is led by Professor Peter Lammers. So they even do metabolic engineering. So you name any part of cyanobacteria or algal engineering, AzCATI does that.
So you kind of like talk already about some like teamwork, right, and collaborations, right? So
yes.
How important is that in the work you're doing especially across disciplines? Because we always hear about interdisciplinary, the interdisciplinary word, how important that is, right? Or even across borders. So how does that collaboration matter so much in your field?
So before talking about the collaboration, I'll tell you the problem which we are solving.
Okay.
So everywhere in Arizona, the most important thing is sunscreen. That the thing I worked on.
Yes.
And how did this particular topic came into picture is we currently have chemical sunscreens or UV filters that we usually use on our body. These UV filters, when you put and you get into ocean, swim and all that, those are washed off over a period of time. These things are accumulated in the ocean and then they affect the corals. Once they affect the corals, the entire ecosystem, the aquatic ecosystem is affected. Now we wanted something which is more biodegradable or eco-friendly, and that is how we ended up in cyanobacteria, which are sustaining since ages. And they are producing these compounds which are helping them save from the harmful UV light.
Wow.
Now, this particular problem is across the borders because US is attached with Atlantic and Pacific to other countries.
Yeah.
So we have collaborations with people from Amsterdam, France, India for that matter. We are using the instrument which was made in Denmark and India. So across borders we do have, especially for scale up and downstream, because when we come into the university premises, we have limitations on scale up. We cannot go beyond a certain limit.
Yes.
And again, constraints with the funding money that we get. That's why we sometimes outsource the things and do that. So for these purposes, even for testing the formulations that we make, we have to collaborate with certain industries from the US and outside. So people are helping us out from all over the world, I would say. Let's put it that way in a summarized form.
All over the world.
Yes.
Okay. So you also talked about industries, right? Especially global industries. So how do you see bio-based innovation shaping industries, especially at the pharmaceutical and cosmetics level?
Okay, so whenever we write any kind of paper or a manuscript, we first write our research is sustainable. Our research is eco-friendly for that matter. But whenever things come with the term bio-based, the number of regulations increase tremendously. Because whenever you produce or whenever you synthesize or whenever you manufacture anything bio-based, you are always abide by certain rules and regulations which you have to follow. This first thing. Second, everything will go through clinical trials. So the number of years it takes to go from lab to market is relatively more. Because getting things out of biological system will take some time, and then clinical trials will take part into it, which usually does not happen with the chemical stuff, because you can test things very rapidly comparatively. I may be wrong, but this is what I see it. So that is the first. The regulations is something very, very important that we need to consider in bio-based. But they are really shaping the world and the way we used to look at world, especially with the advent of CRISPR system. Things are moving very rapidly. Initially, people used to do like 1 and 2, they used to engineer 1 and 2 sets of organisms. Now we are going for high throughput screening. like engineer like hundreds of cells at the same time.
That's so interesting.
Yeah. And
Wow.
again, the machinery is like the automation that has come into picture, even that is changing it very rapidly. So I won't say only bio-based. There are other aspects of engineering as well, which are helping it to get to the market rapidly. But you cannot change the growth rate, right?
No. Which is like a challenge too, right? I mean,
It is
can be
challenging, but it is need of an hour.
need, of course. What are your biggest takeaways from working at ASU so far?
Inclusion, openness to the opportunities. I would say excellent research culture.
Okay.
And I would say, although the culture in ASU, at the overall USA, is individualistic, people are still ready to help you even at the personal level.
Okay.
So that is something something at ASU I love about it.
It's one of the benefits.
Yeah, I love it. More than benefits, I love it.
That's amazing. That's great to hear. But so, what advice would you give to researchers coming from India who are like in a similar situation, like a similar background as you, who arrived to the US from a country like India, for example, or other countries to study or work or do research in the US?
For any kind of researcher, I would say, based on my experience, love your work.
Okay.
The time when you get little disinterested in your work, you feel it like a burden. You reduce your productivity and the cycle continues. So love your work, whatever you do. That is something I would say.
And my follow-up question would be, what helped you adjust to life in the US or at ASU, whether it's work or just like, I know you also mentioned food before. I don't know if you want to go back to that topic again, but what is one of the recommendations that you can give to a future scholar, for example, when it comes to like adjusting to a new environment?
In my case, I would say one more thing that helped me adjust is my family, my wife, and now my little daughter. But yeah, family support is equally important because this is the time which are considered to be the golden years of your life that you should spend with your family. But when your family is understanding that why you have to spend 10 hours in the laboratory, then you win 90% of the battle.
Wow. No, that's very inspiring what you said. Really. So how can international scholars make the best out of their experience or their journey at ASU?
The first thing I will say is make utmost use of the facilities by Sun Devils Fitness Complex, SDFC.
All right.
Like go to gym, play
be
whatever.
Healthy.
Yeah, be healthy. They have swimming facility. They have table tennis facility, volleyball, basketball facilities, like games and workout. Both the facilities use it. ASU also gives like free passes to the museum.
Yes.
So use them.
Culture passes.
Yep.
Yeah.
And third thing is connect to nature. Go for hiking. Visit various parks around. So during COVID time, as I was here, we couldn't visit the Desert Botanical Garden around, but it is one of the best places people to come over here.
So you highly recommend?
I would even highly recommend. One of the very important things around ASU is musical instrumentation museum.
Okay. Yes, that's very famous.
Yes, MIM is the only musical instrument museum in the world.
Yes.
Yeah, and you must visit that.
Isn't it crazy?
It is really nice, and their canteen is really nice. They serve good food.
they do. But if you do go hiking, if you do like the outdoors, just make sure you don't go, especially during the extreme temperatures, in the summer, right?
Yep.
Because
summer is
hydration
not. Yeah, you're right.
Hydration is so important here too.
Absolutely.
but we have plenty of national national parks here
Yes.
around to go hiking and
Yep.
enjoy the outside if you
Yeah.
like nature, and
Yep.
yeah, which is amazing. But looking back, what would you tell your younger self when starting this journey? There's something particular that
Looking back, I would say you never knew, but you were right.
you okay.
Yeah, I mean, I would say I never had any regret of my decisions, any of my decisions. Maybe because they were right every time, and second important thing is right people came to your life, coming to your life every
Yes,
time.
yes.
You cannot choose. Even I'm talking about my PhD advisors or my postdoctoral advisors.
Yes.
You can choose a person, but you cannot choose a behavior of that person. But
Yes.
I was really fortunate to have these kind of people, even my collaborators now. Fantastic people. Yeah.
People really
Yeah.
make the difference, right?
Yeah.
When
I mean, yeah. I mean, if people usually say if you are good, you will get good people.
Sure.
But
yeah,
even luck plays a very big role in that. And I was
I
very
agree.
lucky. I am very lucky in
it's amazing. Do you have any message for those passionate about sustainability or research innovation?
I would say sustain your passion and use your failures as your ladder. I mean, when you fail 100 times and pass once, you're the only one who knows what does not work.
Yes.
Others will definitely tell you what will work,
Yes.
but you are the only one who knows what does not. So take advantage of that. So failures are not like they will not pull you back until and unless you make them
Yes.
to.
Yes.
So that is something I would say. And don't run behind stability. I would say strive for excellence. You will automatically get stability and money.
It will come naturally.
It will
just-
come naturally. I mean, don't ignore that.
Yes.
Money, because money is very important.
Of course.
But yeah, but don't run behind it. Strive for
Yes.
excellence, and everything will come to you.
I think that's a great piece of advice, and it's definitely something that also comes with experience, I think, right?
Yeah.
But as you said, it needs to come also like naturally, and it will flow. It will just flow in
Yeah,
life,
it
right?
flows. Yeah.
All
I mean,
right.
when you fail multiple times, I would say that is where you start developing patience.
Yes.
That is where you start believing in yourself.
Yes. Yes. All right. So that's all for today's episode. Aditya, thank you so much
Thank
for
you so much.
joining us, and also for sharing your story and what you do here at ASU and your groundbreaking research. I think it's like fascinating, and I wish you all the best
Thank you so much,
with your,
Giuliano.
your project and what you work. And we look forward to hear more about it as your project develops and as it evolves over time. So yeah, that's all for today.
Thank you.
Thank you again, Aditya, and thank you for those ones listening and watching our podcast. And we'll see you at our next episode. Bye bye.